Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today. My name's Sam. I'm the marketing manager in the MBA recruitment and admissions team here at Oxford Said. I just want to quickly check that you can all hear me before we get going. If a couple of people could just type yes in the questions box and just let us know that you can hear us. Awesome, thank you for that. So today I'm joined by my colleagues James and Sarah, who are from our Career Development Centre. What they're going to do is they're going to run through a little bit of information about their team and the services that they provide to MBA candidates, which begins even before they set foot at Oxford Said to commence their MBA in September, and talk us through the careers journey throughout their time here. And then we'll also open up for questions afterwards. So thank you very much for joining us, and I'll hand over to James and Sarah.
Thanks, Sam. Well, we'll start with some introductions, I suppose. That might be a good start. So, my name's James Henton. I am an employer engagement manager within the Career Development Centre. I primarily look after the technology space. So, what that means is I deal with most of our technology clients, helping lovely MBAs get jobs post MBA. In a nutshell, I've been at the school for 4 years now, frighteningly. Mainly working in careers, but also in internal recruitment for the business school. And for my sins, I'm an ex-recruiter. So I like to think I know a fair bit about the recruitment process and what companies are looking for. I will hand you over to Sarah now.
Hi there, everybody. It's nice to see so many of you dialed in today. So I'm Sarah Pratt. I'm the head of our consulting careers sector team, and I'm part of the senior leadership team for the Career Development Centre. I've been at the school for 2 years, so I kick-started our consulting careers sector team and the development programme that we run in-house, and obviously our broader employee relations piece. And now have a team, a very small little team made up of people like James, but with a consulting background. For my sins, if that's what we're talking about today, my background is I transitioned from engineering into consulting. I worked in the people development, top tier talent development, and the OD space. And my team have a mixture of consulting, marketing consulting, recruitment, healthcare, technology consulting background. So we bring kind of a plethora into the consulting careers team. So today, what we wanted to talk about was firstly, some of the organisations that we work with. That's usually one of the first questions we get asked. And then we want to talk about how does your career path change depending on kind of what your aspirations are, what your strengths and your motivations are right now. How's that going to change over your MBA journey? And then to dig a little bit deeper from our generic support to our sector-based support to our leadership development portfolio. We were going to end on a couple of suggestions that we think might be relevant, whether you take the MBA here or somewhere else, but how to start informing your career path today. And then we're going to have plenty of time at the end for some questions and answers. So by all means, you can ask your questions now. We're not going to get to them until the end of the call. So let's start with who do we work with? James, cool. Tell us a bit about our employee portfolio.
Oh, hold on, just getting things to work. Right, so as you can sort of briefly see from this slide, this isn't all the people we work with. We work with multiple organisations, but we just thought we'd highlight a few of these companies here for you. So as I mentioned, I deal with employer engagement primarily, so this is kind of my remit. You can see when we're talking about who we're working with, we're also talking about hiring streams there. So this kind of, if you like, ties in with the various times of year and what am I trying to say, the terms that we have at the business school. So you can see from the hiring streams, we have program hiring. So in my world, Amazon's a big player in this market, which we have multiple Amazon programs, which we work with, which are exclusively for MBAs. I think in the consulting world, are there many of?
So program hiring for ours happens at the start of the Hillary term. So just after Christmas, we have school-specific off-cycle structured hiring programs for all of the strategy firms.
Okay, interesting. And then we'll move on to internships, which kind of happens more at the start of be sort of 2021, I suppose, for you guys. And then we move into experienced hiring. So those are kind of broadly the three types of hiring that will happen if you are doing your MBA, and we help you support in all of these streams. And as we can see, there's just a selection of companies there. There are quite big businesses, some of those, but obviously with the school's focus on entrepreneurship and sort of driving your career, not necessarily with the giants, we're also here to support for those smaller businesses as well. Building on that, I think it's just sort of highlighting here some the varied paths you can sort of go through to find a job and how we support those. So you can see we've mentioned on-campus hiring. So many of those businesses of names you saw there, they will be on campus, and they will be coming to talk to you about their opportunities for now, as well as kind of the not the structured hiring, the experienced hiring towards the end of your journey. Well, companies are on campus, typically they like to give a presentation followed by some networking sessions as well to give you hopefully a real feel for how the business operates and the exciting things you can get involved in. We support you with kind of job postings, so we have our own platform which is especially for students, where we will be posting everything and anything that the companies are looking to hire you for, from internships, structured hiring and experienced hires. Networking, especially in the consulting world, is extremely important, and you'll hear a lot about that sort of pre-MBA and where you're here. You need to be able to network effectively to build your brand while you're on site and build your brand with those businesses. The one thing where when you're admitted, you have the option to go in our resume book, which is something I would definitely advise that you look to be a part of. You will find out about deadlines for that once you're sort of admitted and everything, but that is key, and the reason for that is you're all held on this fantastic platform which we've got for you for applying for jobs, but employers can also log in and find you. So you could potentially be called from a consulting company, a tech company, whoever it may be, based on just your CV being on our system. So I would really encourage people to take advantage of that. We've already had a number of offers go out this year with a consulting firm who just phoned them out of the blue. Yeah. And then got invited to some networking events and jobs aplenty, so that's always good.
So just before we move on, I can see there's a couple of questions coming in about where do graduates go, what kind of organisations, what kind of roles are coming in. The best thing I can suggest for you is we produce our MBA employment report. We post it on our portal. So if you go to the SBS website, you go to the Recruit Our Students page, you can download the employment report, which has the exact percentages by sector, it has the average salaries, it has the locations of where those jobs were found, and that will answer several of the questions that have come in already today. Can I just ask, from a finance perspective, networking is also incredibly important if you're interested in VC, PE, any kind of asset management role. That networking will also start pre-arrival over the summer. Cool. Shall we move on? Let's dig into the sectors.
Hold on.
There's a click. So, what did I want to do about this? Well, I wanted to start with that purple circle in the centre. So, all of our sector teams cover off impact. Well, why is that? There's a lot of duplication and overlap in the impact space, but also the definition from an Oxford Saïd perspective is that impact is now having multiple interpretations across the school. So in my sector in consulting, we're looking at environmental consulting, we're looking at sustainability, we're looking at impact advisory around the way the business is done to have different societal, structural, environmental, climate impacts, as well as the kind of the long-term financial sustainability piece. In finance, we have relationships with the impact investing firms, and then within global industries, it's the in-house CSR, sustainability, environmental type roles within the big kind of blue chip organisations. So impact sits across everything, much like it does across the MBA curriculum, and also, you know, culture, the school's desire to producing leaders that not only impact their teams, their businesses, but also the communities and the environment around them. Looking at each of the teams, well, from a centralised perspective, there's common support. So what do I mean by that? All sectors offer employment events. James mentioned presentations and the networking opportunities, but equally we run off-campus treks where we'll go to a city or a hub point and meet and visit several offices. So it might be around retail luxury goods, it might be around tech, it could be impact, it could be more niche. In terms of how do we get you job ready, we run documents and application support. So we look at how your CV or your cover letters are coming together, how any essay questions are coming together for you, and help you tailor that to the organisation and the sector. We run a wide range of career and talent development training and programmes, from personal branding, interview skills, innovative problem solving, and so on. You have unlimited access to a one-to-one career coaching programme. So unlike other schools, there is no limit to how many times you visit us. Well, apart from Christmas Day, we've just discussed that. We're not open over Christmas, but other than that, pretty much every day of the year you can find one of us to talk to. We run executive coaching tailored to leadership within your targeted sector. You'll have access to over 50 industry advisors, and they are all senior experienced experts from their fields. And lastly, we have a wealth of online support. So James mentioned previously Oscar, our job platform. It's also partnered with the Oxford Careers Academy on our learning platform and gives you access to online training, online resources, as well as paid for services like Interview Stream, Prep Lounge, MBA Exchange, and Going Global. So let's dig into the sectors. James, why don't you tell us about global industry first?
Cool, thanks, Sarah. So as we can see here, we're saying everything that's not finance consulting. I've seen a couple of questions. We will circle back to questions at the end, but I'll try and kind of answer some as we go along. Lots of people asking questions I can see around sectors and what are the support for those. No matter what sector you're going into, be it finance, global industry, consulting, manufacturing, you all get the same support in terms of ability for us to help you. We also have a huge list of industry advisors who are who are specialists in very niche areas. So if you are worried about transitioning from healthcare to consulting or whatever it may be, we typically have an expert who has worked in that area who can help you prepare if you're looking for something quite niche or coming from a niche area. It's not something to be worried about. We do have that support there to help you. So just quickly going back to the slide you see here. So again, you can see on the left, we're talking about sort of program hiring, internships and experience hire. You'll see from some of the other slides, we call them slightly different things, but that's for global industry really. Those are your three kind of main streams to get into global industry companies. You can see at the top as well, we're talking about tech, energy, industrials, healthcare, retail, and everything else you can possibly think of comes into my team. We do have specialist programs and co-curricular you may have heard of before if you've been looking at our website and been on these things. We can see the product management roadmap, which is, we've had so many MBAs, they love product management. So we thought this is an area we really want to get specialists in and get you guys involved with product managers from various companies across the world. So we specifically designed a product management roadmap where we have dedicated professionals from multiple sectors who have been experts in product management coming to speak to you, network with you, give you top tips, whether you want to go to Facebook as a product manager or you want to go into sort of media, we can help you with that. We've got the data analytics and digital marketing pathway, which is a bit of a mouthful. We're still trying to call it something else. We're calling it DADMAP at the moment, but we're open to other suggestions as to what to call that. That's part of a co-curricular program, which we run with our L'Oreal Professor of Marketing, Andrew Stephen. And that kind of involves exactly what it says on the tin. So data and analytics are becoming more and more popular for data-driven decision-making, those type of things, and how it's influencing the digital world. So that's, if you're interested in marketing and data, that'd be a great thing for you to be a part of, and we don't restrict numbers for those things as well. interview skills workshops, as Sarah mentioned, with some of the things which we are here to support you with. We help you with multiple workshops, from that of LinkedIn to all the way through to sort of case interviews and maybe a consulting side as well. And across all streams, we can see that employer presentations, webinars, tracks and networking we offer on a regular basis.
So it's fair to say the Global Intimacy team is the biggest team in our wider consulting, within our wider careers team. Specifically, so I'm just looking at Bianca's question, we have 5 experts in that team looking at parts of everything that's not finance or consulting, but we're equally lucky to have a broad, diverse set of individuals across our industry advisors. To the depth of knowledge and expertise that you've got to, yes, I appreciate that everything that's not finance or consulting is a little bit jovial in the way that it's written, but I can absolutely assure you that the depth is there in the team. Let me talk about my team. Obviously, the #1 choice for all MBAs is to become a consultant, right? We look after 5 types of consulting, and we're quite specific that we niche our programme and support to look at all 5 aspects, which is quite different to some of the other MBA schools that specifically target strategy and strategy consulting only. Why is that? On a 1-year MBA, the transition into strategy is challenging, and actually the breadth of the consulting market is there are lots of other very interesting, very fulfilling roles that don't require the super high GMAT that the strategy firms are looking for, that don't maybe require so many years work experience that the strategy firms are looking for. So we also look at the full service firms. If you want to be a specialist in, I think I've seen a question on organisational behaviour, you can absolutely do that in a management consultancy firm. Equally within a boutique leadership firm, you could also work for a boutique that just looks after ops consulting. You could work in an infrastructure consulting boutique. Internally, we work with people like American Express, Siemens Consulting, Icon Consulting, who are within a big corporate blue chip. So it's the internal strategy consulting team typically. And lastly, we look at impact consulting, where we're looking to build a range of smaller impact-specific niche consultancies who need a different entry path. So I've seen that also in the questions come up. The transition into impact consulting is challenging. They often require you to have a background already in the consulting space. That's less true from the previous 4. What do? We run the entire co-curriculum space around consulting. There isn't a faculty programme currently on our MBA. We run this based on employer feedback and with employers actively involved. So online we start in June, we have a webinar programme over the summer, and you have access to our detailed pre-arrival materials looking at your fit and your understanding of the sector, because I think it's very easy to go, oh, I know what consulting is. The reality often is surprising. Once you're on campus, we run a mixture of employer engagement activities, but equally we have our employers and our industry advisors running skill-specific development. So that could be about learning how to structure a thinking like a McKinsey consultant. It could be about consultative selling. It could be about, last week we looked at how to manage your client engagement effectively. We've looked at stakeholder management this term. We've done innovative problem solving using the what if consultancy techniques. And then lastly, as the bullet point says, we go off to Bain last week. We're off to ADK in January. We've just held a big London Women in Consulting event. We have an annual consulting drinks event with Oxbridge, where we have about 120 consultants and alumni come to meet MBAs. So we make sure that you have plenty of interaction with consultants all round. And last but not least, the finance services team.
So as you can see here, we're we're being jovial again with much more than just banking. But as you can see, it covers a whole plethora from investment banking, fintechs, capital markets, that kind of thing. Again, we've kind of listed the types of hiring which we're looking at again in those businesses around structured, off-cycle and lateral hiring. The specialist programs, as many of you who've been interested in finance probably know about the Oxford Finance Lab, which runs throughout Michaelmas, which is a hugely oversubscribed, fantastic program we run with our faculty. Trading floor simulations, we've just had Amplified Trading on campus, playing against the other institution, let's call it, and we won this year, which was nice. So you get the opportunity to test your own trading skills in the team, which is a really interesting thing to do, and has always been great fun every year. We love doing it. As you can see as well, in terms of the support around the Oxford sort of business networks, employer presentations, it's still there again for all the stuff when it comes to financial services. We are looking to support you in every way we can. And lastly, as kind of Sarah mentioned when we were talking about the different areas, Impact Careers obviously goes across all sectors. So Tech for Good, for instance, Impact Investing, Consulting for Change, where again we have specific programs which we look at to help people looking at roles in impact around our Impact Investing Bootcamp. You'll notice that on campus we have lots of different sort of centres, if you like, to help you. So even if you're looking at the entrepreneurship side of things with Impact, as well as our Skull Centre, and again we support with tracks, employer presentations and networking with webinars as well. So Sarah's going to
I just want to pause. There's a couple of questions coming in about the breadth of our service and whether it could be improved. I just wanted to tackle that one. You're absolutely right. The GMAT Club, Poets and Quants, all of those great websites talk about our MBA program and what could be improved. What I will say about the career service, 2 years ago we didn't exist. We were a team of 7. We're now a team of 23. I think it's fairly safe to say that the school's heard that message and has done something very specific to help out in that space. We've also broadened out industry expertise. We now have 52 industry advisors that work for us as external experts, absolutely embedded in their sectors. So thank you for pointing that out, but I think we've definitely looked to improve it and broaden out the breadth of coverage we have across the entire team for MBAs and also for our other academic programs and our alumni. So what do? So outside of the sector piece, this diagram shows you effectively in 4 chunks, what does the support journey look like? So pre-arrival, from June of next year, if you've paid your deposit, we give you an email and we let you access all our systems. So you have access to the Careers Academy, you have access to all the virtual sessions and the panels over the summer. So that you can prepare effectively for a fairly rapid arrival into Oxford. So in the first week of launch, you spend time with the programme team and with academics. Your second week of launch, you spend it exclusively with the careers team. Why is that? If you're applying for finance jobs in Asia, your deadlines are probably going to be within the next fortnight. So to ensure that everybody is brought up to a kind of, we're almost ready to take on the sprint in finance, a gentle, I don't know how you describe it in running terms in GI, but for some of the GI roles, you're going to be on a slow sprint. And for consulting, we've got the term to get you ready for January deadlines and application processes. So we start fairly quickly into, these are the skills that all MBA graduates will need, not only to get hired, but to be successful from the day that they start their job. And then across Michaelmas, Hillary and Trinity, we're into sector specific, as well as our Career Foundation programme. On the left, you can see the programmes led specifically out of the careers team. And on the right, you can see where we have faculty partnership programmes or Oxford specialist centre programmes that are run in conjunction with careers. And then at the bottom in the green box, you can see where we're going on into the wider talent programmes. Lovely. I'm not going to say too much more about that now. If we flip into the next one, so talent development, we branch this out into 4 areas. Your abilities to deliver at an MBA level, to grow yourself and continue a journey of growth, to empower others, and to influence up, down, round, and all around. So this is a co-curricular subject that we run. So our MBA obviously provides you with access to the academic brains and the thinking and research on this. We provide the pragmatic practitioner skills. So for example, under delivery, we've got obviously the product management program that we just talked about earlier. We also have things like agile training. We have access to, in the grow section, we provide every student with the opportunity to complete a NEO, which is the big five psychology personality traits. We provide you with that with one-to-one bespoke development feedback. We also provide you with a suite of self-assessment tools so you can look kind of internally at who you are and what really makes you flow. Empowerment, we look at coaching, facilitation, mentoring skills. We also, in influencing, yes, obviously influencing, but personal impact, negotiation, stakeholder management, and so on. So just to give you a flavour of what's in there, it's everything but the theory and the technical research piece. We leave that to academics. We run the talent development programme. You could also call it leadership development. So what could you do after today if you wanted to join our MBA programme to get your career thinking a little bit clearer? So I know on your applications you need to fill in the part that says, when I grow up and I'm a proper MBA, I want to be. We wanted to give you a bit of a hint of kind of the things you could do to enhance that application, those of you that are still looking to apply. Maybe a bit late for those of you a bit further into the process, but equally before you hit our June onboarding programme, one of the key things that is often feedback, not only here, we used to hear the same thing at LBS and certainly at Cambridge and some of the other business schools that I've worked with, your global business acumen is key to being an MBA graduate and not another specialist master's graduate. What do I mean by that? It's having that ability to see what's happening elsewhere and how it applies to where you are, or how it applies to where you want to target. So getting familiar with market trends, what's happening in different parts of the world, how is AI working in Singapore differently to Brazil, how is Nigeria tackling XYZ compared to America, and getting really familiar with kind of what's going on. Our suggestion is, if you haven't got time to sit around and read the newspapers, and I completely understand that we're not all there, start getting some online business feeds, start following the Washington Journal, start following the Süddeutsche Zeitung, start following the Financial Times and the Economist, and get gradually that kind of business acumen built up over the next 9 months before you start your MBA. Do you want to talk about LinkedIn?
Yeah.
Because you're one of our LinkedIn experts.
In terms of kind of when we're talking about following interesting firms of influencers, especially those of you who maybe you want to come and do the MBA, you think you want to go into tech, you think you want to go into consulting, you're not quite sure sort of what to look at. This is, if you're following these firms and seeing what jobs they're posting, you're seeing the type of people that work there, you're looking and seeing if there are any other Oxford MBAs working at that business. This is kind of like, when you get here, it will be all hands on deck, because this is a 1-year MBA. You're going to be having to hit the ground quite quickly when you arrive, and Michaelmas term, as with any MBA, is probably quite crazy. You're trying to kind of live your best Oxford life while you're here as well as kind of getting scripted for your studies. So now's the time to start looking at companies you might be interested in, start drawing up those lists of, I want to work for Amazon, Google, Uber, and all of these kind of various companies. Get your list started now and start thinking about the companies, look at their culture and how you resonate with that, look at the types of jobs available. We have lots and lots of students who transition very successfully from manufacturing into tech. But start looking for your similarities with your skill sets that you have now, doing whatever job you're doing, from business development to operations management, and trying to find that common ground of where you want to go, because that's how you're going to be able to transition into these new roles.
I think that relates to some of the questions that have just started popping up about transitioning between sectors. This is really important. You're looking at Oxford as a one-year MBA programme, and some of the roles I'm seeing, some of the transitions people are talking about, it's this pre-arrival preparation. We talk about a career transition taking 21 months. We work with you for all 21 months, starting in June, running for that academic programme through to a year the next September, right through to March after you graduate. For some of you, it will take that long to make some of the larger transitions. So the more changes you want to make, from sector to seniority to pay to location and country, the longer that transition tends to take. So getting familiar with that and getting to how does 1 year cycle hiring differ to 2-year MBA cycles is really important. Excellent. So I think that's answered some of those questions. And then the last thing we wanted to do was say, start looking at yourselves. What makes you motivated? What are you the go-to guy or girl for? What is it that you have to sell on your top 10 motivated talents and strengths? So we've given you a couple of ideas of free or relatively cheap assessments that you can take there. So you can start to articulate, I'm Sarah, I'm really good at X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D, and I'm known for this because of my expertise or my particular knowledge or skills or exposure that backs that up as evidence to show you that not only do I enjoy it, but I've got track record of demonstrating I'm phenomenal at it. If you can start to get clearer on that before you start your MBA, wherever you start your MBA, it will make the first part of your career planning much, much simpler, because yes, job titles look exciting and salary and new cities look exciting, but actually if you're not doing something that makes you happy, we tend to know that career journeys are a little bit more bumpy. Cool.
Yeah, so just looking at kind of some of the questions, so I'm going to head off some of these now. I've seen some quite specific questions. We're not going to be able to delve into some of the exact, the very narrow, some specifics, but let's kind of try and cover some of the more broad ones. So I can see some people have mentioned the horrible word that is Brexit. In a nutshell, it's not impacting us really, because of the true nature and the global relationships we have with these employers.
Yeah.
It's not really giving us any cause for concern in terms of like hiring numbers with our big employers. Slightly up on last year with some of my tech clients. Yeah. They're hiring more overseas students. I don't think it's going to impact you guys at all, if I'm perfectly honest. That is my opinion, not the opinion of the business school.
I think we can go a little bit broader. The visa and the sponsorship issue is down to the company that's trying to hire you. The school can do nothing to influence that. So if you look at the US, you're looking at, entering a raffle. We can't help you be more or less lucky on that. If you are targeting a different country to one that you have current working rights for, do the investigation, get on the government website and find out what it is you need to have or do to be eligible or more eligible for a visa.
And when you are here, we have some fantastic online resources which give you all of the details on visa requirements and what you need to be doing to looking at that. So again, when you're here, you'll be able to explore that. I saw someone asking around the time and commitment for talent development. You don't have, the talent development program is quite extensive. So for instance, say you just wanted to look at mindfulness or a certain aspect of the program, you don't have to commit to a whole series of 15 workshops or something.
No.
It is sort of, you select what you feel is more important to you. So again, when Sarah's talking about, look at your motivations, look at what you're good at and what you want to do, that's kind of what I'd be thinking about. So when you do come and you see the selection of talent development we offer, you can hopefully resonate with what's more important to you, if that makes sense.
So part of the self-assessments that we do, so I mentioned the NEO program, we have an online personal development planning module, and at the end of that you can see the gaps between where you are and where you're hoping to head. The talent development program is put in place for you to go, I want to make this transition, I'm missing skill X. We then hopefully have a course that matches up to that from the suite of courses that we're offering.
Cool. Just looking at some of the, I saw one that I could answer there, and now I've lost it in the amount of questions coming through. In terms of, sorry, I'm just looking.
There's some questions about GMAT. I wanted to pick those up. So please distinguish the GMAT score that we ask for the programme is not necessarily what our employers ask for. If you're looking at, and I mentioned it earlier, structured hiring for strategy consulting firms, they take the creme de la creme de la creme. So it isn't just GMAT. They will be asking for high GMAT scores, but they're also asking for 4 to 5, 6, 7 plus years work experience. They're also asking for top first degrees. It isn't just up to GMAT. If you're asking about the entry level onto the Saeed programme, I believe, and I'm looking at some clarity.
So we actually don't have a minimum. We do recommend that a 650 is considered competitive, but we don't have an actual minimum because we do look at you holistically. So we'll take a GMAT score into consideration alongside your work experience, your post-MBA plans, your references. So we do take a holistic look. The current cohort, the median score is a 690, and it's been 690 for the last couple of years. We are quite consistent, but yeah, we do recommend applying with a 650 or above. And for someone else, just quickly, who asked if, there's a few people have asked if we'd have access to these slides afterwards. We'll send the recording around to everyone who registered, so you will be able to access this recording and the slides.
I've seen a couple of questions around entrepreneurship and budding entrepreneurs. In a nutshell, yes, we do have to support you with that. Primarily, it's through some of our other, what should I say, centres that we have. So the Entrepreneurship Centre is obviously dedicated to entrepreneurship, is exactly what it says on the tin. We also work very closely with the Oxford Foundry, which is a unified initiative that our Dean Tufano sort of kicked around to everyone, and it's been going great guns. So yes, you get support, even if you're looking from a startup all the way through to a sort of huge tech company. You'll get a great level of support no matter what you're looking for.
Okay, so there's some questions starting to pop up about transitioning between sectors. It's why we encourage you to start doing your research early. It's that second activity on the 3 that we shared was about. The more changes, the more jumps you want to make, the more difficult the more challenging and the more time consuming your jump will be, regardless of school that you join to do your MBA. The reality is the more things you want to change on the board, the more variables, the more challenging that project becomes. So there's some questions in there about, have I got this, have I got that, have I got the other? We can't get into specifics. Please do your research, start talking to people in your network, start following the firms that might be of interest to you to understand what is their typical candidate profile like, what is their recruitment cycle like, what are salaries like for particular offices, because that will help you select in and select out options for when you get here for the MBA and you're combining both study, Oxford life, rugby blues. That was yesterday, the varsity match was yesterday, rowing in the freezing cold Florida December mornings. Knowing what you don't want is equally as important as knowing what you do.
I've seen some questions pop up around internships and strategic consulting projects. In terms of time balancing and what the internships will come at the back end of the Trinity terms. So you won't be having to, if you like, balance any class with an internship, as long as you're taking an internship in the sort of the sanction time of the year, if that makes sense. So many people, you won't be going on your internship probably till June or July, coming towards the back end of your studies, depending on what options you've decided to take for your course, because our MBA can be, we don't specialise it, if that makes sense, but you do have the option to select maybe more marketing related topics or wherever your interests lie. And you may well have to come back on campus to complete some elective modules. That will all be run through with you when you are here on campus. when we're looking at kind of, you can self-select what modules you want to do. You don't have to do an internship if you don't want to do an internship. It's entirely up to you. The strategic consulting project, we haven't got a list of employers. There's not that many, if I'm perfectly honest. There's only about 5 or 6 employers, simply because student appetite for these has been reducing over time and more people are interested in doing internships. So that hopefully sort of heads off that question.
Okay. Trying to read the questions as they could in, come out and move around a bit. The question about program management, it's actually product management. If you want to do program management at Oxford, we run a course called the Masters in Major Project Management. That's a different academic program. It is super, super niche in program portfolio management. On the MBA, it's product management. Apologies, that's maybe not come across very well verbally on the line. What else?
We've got quite a lot of questions coming here, and we want to make sure that we group all the ones that are, I guess, related. So what we might do is we'll just pop you on hold for a second, and we'll just sort through the questions, and we'll be back in just a minute.
Hi guys, we're back. Just trying to sort out your questions to the ones we can answer and can't. Again, we've seen quite a lot of questions popping up around visas. It's your responsibility to sort out your visa with the company you want to work to. I did see a question around someone was talking, I think, the resident labour market test for coming into the UK. That still exists. It is a case of certain roles have to be advertised for a certain amount of time for international people to apply, but there is no kind of, the problem is with these kind of questions around visas, there's no right or wrong or definitive answer, I'm afraid. It just regardless
of the
country, regardless of the employer or the sector, sorry, it is completely dependent on the company and their policies. Some companies, obviously the big companies we work with, such as Amazon, Google, they sponsor visas. It is what it is. Some smaller businesses, you might find it more difficult because they just haven't got their policies together and it's not in place. Yeah, so hopefully that answers, well, broadly, details around sort of immigration.
Okay, let me take some of these questions about work experience. So I want to separate out work experience to join our school or any other MBA and work experience for certain employers. So I think the questions are a bit jumbled up here. So in terms of our MBA, we look for a minimum of 2 years work experience. That's different across different schools. You'll find Cambridge is quite similar to ours. This is a little higher, INSEAD different again. So you need to research the programs you want to apply for and find out whether you're eligible. In terms of work experience, typically MBA roles, we're looking for on average 5 to 6 years work experience, but looking down to really 2 years experience through to about 9 or 10 years. Typically at any school, if you've got more than 9 or 10 years work experience, you're more likely to make a career transition at a senior level of an EMBA program and an executive MBA program. Everything we've talked around in terms of jobs and career support for MBA is equally relevant for our executive MBA here at Oxford IE too. Why am I making that distinction? Think about it. If you're coming in with 10 plus years work experience, the likelihood is that you've already held quite a senior management position with quite a significant package. Moving to an MBA role, you are likely to take a demotion and be surrounded by people that are less experienced, and typically we find students find that a little bit more uncomfortable. At EMBA, you're moving at a horizontal level rather than a kind of diagonally downwards level. I hope that's helpful.
In terms of someone's asking around graduation times, if you were to do an internship, you're going to be available for work probably September, I would say, August, September for full-time work after doing your internship. I've seen someone asking about experience. If you've only got, say, 3 years, can you make a transition? Yeah, we had a student last year who only had 3 years work experience and is now working for Amazon. So yeah, and they were in marketing previously. So yeah, you can make the transition. It's on you to obviously figure out that direction, what you want to do. But yeah, no, that's absolutely fine.
We are seeing quite a few questions come through about requirements for the program in general. So I would recommend having a look at our website or our brochure if you haven't already. All our application requirements are listed there. And if you are planning to apply in either stage 3, which the deadline for that is on the 10th of January, or stage 4 at the beginning of April, we will have a application tips webinar in the first week of January, which is available to register on our website. So we can give a bit more of a deep dive into specific application requirements, TOEFL requirements, GMAT requirements, everything else on that application tips webinar. But we won't go into that on this careers webinar.
I've just seen a couple of other things there about do we let employers know your grades? You've got an MBA, it doesn't matter. There isn't a grade.
Normally you're asked by some employers to share your own transcript. The university provides that for you. You are then, required, if asked, to submit that to their portal, But no, we don't go around saying, oh, Sam got an A and James only got a D. No, we can't share that. Law actually would prevent us from sharing that data.
Someone's asking about impact jobs as well, other than just consulting. Where to begin and where to start with that question? As Sarah mentioned earlier, we have things in corporate sort of social responsibility. We have impact investing companies we work with. It's endless, if I'm honest.
Let's talk about how to research alumni. Maybe that's an interesting thing that people could do. So for any school that you're applying to, if you have a particular sector niche or location interest, if you go onto any of the schools' websites on LinkedIn, you can research their alumni. You might find somebody that's close to you that you can ring up and have a chat with. That would probably give you the breadth. Of any school's alumni and kind of previous histories. Equally, every MBA school produces a class employment report. It's how the ranking system, it's one of the measures for the ranking systems. That tells you how successful or unsuccessful any of the MBA schools are with their careers. I can tell you for our last report that we produced, we had one of the highest employment rates for the top European schools, which meant we had about 92% of our students had a job 3 months post-graduation. It was certainly more than INSEAD, LBS and Cambridge. And equally, we saw our school average salary jump by quite a proportion last year. So we're on a par with INSEAD and LBS now. We're almost identical to Cambridge. And we show you the sectors and the countries where we go. And that will be the same for any MBA school. So part of your broader research, you can search for those reports on any of the business schools' websites. Hopefully that gives a sense of where you might go and find some of those answers for your specific questions about where are alumni, where are jobs, where are people being successful post MBA. What else is a question that we could say? There's a question about spouses. The school and the university does provide support for spouses in the sense of helping actually spouses and family kids settle into life in Oxford. We don't provide career services from Said. We only work with the Said student population. You might find, because you're also eligible to use the university's career service, they may have partner or family services that they can support with. I wish we could answer the essay question, but we can't. That needs to go back to admissions. What else have we not answered that is careers related? There's a lot of questions here, guys, about applying to our MBA. I'm afraid that wasn't really the topic that James and I can cover today. We're specifically here to talk about careers. What have we not?
Yeah, so there's also quite a few questions about scholarships. I'm not sure if we mentioned this earlier, but we are having a scholarships webinar on Monday. So that will be run by my colleague Liam Kilby, who's the Associate Director for MBA Recruitment and Admissions, and he'll also be joined by Claire from our Scholl Centre. So we'll be talking about all the different scholarships available, including the Scholl Scholarship, the Pershing Square Scholarship, and quite a few of the Said Business School Foundation scholarships. So if you're interested in scholarships, definitely register for that, and we can give you a little bit more information on Monday afternoon about that.
I've seen a question coming about digital transformation. Yes. Just as I mentioned, we've got DADMAT, the Data Analytics and Digital Marketing Pathway, which is a specific co-curricular careers program. Andrew Stephen, our L'Oreal Professor of Marketing, will probably talk to you extensively about that topic if you ask him. So yes, in quick.
So I think a lot of the questions that are coming through now are quite specific to the individual, so it's not really something we should probably share on the webinar. So I think I'm really sorry if we didn't answer your question, if you were looking for quite a specific profile review, or if you have very specific career outcomes in mind. It is hard to give you individual advice because it does depend on your background, depends on a lot of different factors, so we wouldn't want to just give you a yes or no question answer over the webinar and be misleading. I would recommend, though, if anyone hasn't done it yet, to download the employment report. I know Sarah mentioned it earlier. It is on our website. It's on the career development page. It's also on, I do believe it's on the MBA homepage. So that does have a little bit of information about the career outcomes, and I've seen quite a few questions, people asking what countries or what regions people go to post MBA, and that's all outlined in the employment report as well. So definitely take a look at that if you haven't already, and I'll attach a copy of it to the webinar recording when I send around that to everyone who's registered as well.
Just a quick question there about the Scholl Centre as well. Much like careers, they have their own kind of suite of internal kind of programs, if you like, or development paths. So we work very closely with the Entrepreneurship Centre and the Scholl Centre. So they will help you if you're looking at something in a certain area. They are there to support you, but if you like, we introduce you to them, or you'll see them when you're here on campus, and that's something they will answer for you. But I know that they run kind of almost like our co-curricular bits and pieces. They will have a suite of options available for you if you're interested in those areas.
I like that. How much time does an MBA typically spend with the Career Centre?
How long's a piece of string?
Yeah, so unlike some of the business schools, we don't limit your access to us. You have as many, unlimited, other than Christmas days, opportunities to get involved. You can book unlimited one-to-ones with a career coach. You can access as much or as little of the talent development program. You can access all of the sectors. You may choose to focus on one sector. So how much time? Well, I can probably tell you when the time would be. It will either be over a lunchtime session, Every Thursday evening is a careers evening, and then all day Friday is made up of employer, skills training, and talent development workshops. So we have all day Friday on campus for careers and leadership development, talent development, and employers. So we occupy Thursday nights and we occupy you on a Friday.
And then I guess you also have a lot of launch activities.
And in launch, you get an entire week with us where we run our what we call the Connect event, and we bring back about 80 to 100 recent and more experienced alumni who just want to welcome you into the Oxford world. So that's a nice way to start the year.
I think there's a few more questions about, so someone's asked what the gender ratio is at Oxford. So the MBA this year, we have 44% women, which is wonderful. It's a slight increase from the previous year, which was 39%, and then the previous year was 41%. So we're really proud of always staying around that kind of low 40s mark. In terms of Oxford in general, I don't know off the top of my head. You would have to check maybe different programs, or I'm sure there's more data out there about Oxford in general, but for the MBA program, 44% in this current cohort. Maybe we'll take a couple more questions and then it'll be time to wrap up.
Just going to talk, when someone's mentioned details on pre-arrival work, well, we've got our online, as Sarah mentioned, we operate on a platform called Canvas, where we have an extensive array of videos to help prepare you, not just videos, but kind of exercises you can do, how you can, for instance, how you can be prepared for consulting interviews, how you can improve your LinkedIn profile before you come on campus, how you can kind of just dive deeper into your kind of thoughts and motivations. So that work would be available if you are submitted from June. So then you've got June until September to look at all those videos and work through those exercises to help get you up to speed before you come on campus. So again, you can pick and choose what elements you want to look at depending on your own thoughts and motivations, but all of that work it's not necessarily work, it's information and hopefully helpful hints and tips to get you prepared for your MBA.
But you're right, it's more than just a learning platform. Yep. Actually, there is a lot of activity we suggest over the summer, like doing pre-arrival events that our employers run in different geographies. There's some information on how you can do your pre-arrival networking over the summer to help support your transition. I already mentioned the personal development program that's in there to look at your skills gaps and identify which part of the talent development program you want to kickstart in September. So yeah, lots to do from June.
So I think we might end that there. Thank you everyone for dialing in today, and thank you for sending through your questions. I'm sorry we were a little bit all over the show getting to the questions. There were hundreds, and it's quite hard to filter through them all and also make sure that you're, I guess, making them as broad as possible. So trying to find questions that are similar so that we can, I guess, address them all at once. So thank you for your patience with us and for dialing in to hear from James and from Sarah. I did see someone just asked if we could introduce ourselves again. So for those who did come late, I'm Sam White. I'm the marketing manager in the MBA recruitment and admissions team. And we have James Henton and Sarah Pratt from our Career Development Centre. I will pop their names in the email when I send around the recording to everyone. So if there was anything you missed right at the start, you'll be able to just watch that little bit back. But thank you very much. I do hope you found today helpful. And as I mentioned, we do have a scholarships webinar on Monday if you're interested in finding out more about the scholarships available to you. And our stage 3 deadline is on the 10th of January. So we've also got an applications tip webinar that week just to help you with those, I guess, finer detail questions you may have about TOEFLs and GMATs and essays and applying for scholarships and everything, just to help you get over the line for the 10th of January deadline. So thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, have a good weekend.
Thank you. Bye.